In this Elden Ring Nightreign video, I'm going to be showing you my non-meta Duchess build. This is a build that doesn't focus on poison or frostbite. In fact, neither one of those are in this build, and the reason I created it is a lot of people need a build with Duchess that will take on the last boss, which is immune to both of those status effects, and I wanted to showcase a build that you can play even against other bosses that works really, really well. So you can not only take it into the last boss, but you can use it on other ones and still succeed while not running a status effect build. So let's talk a little bit about what this build is. This build uses the Starting Dagger and Sacred Blade, and it uses Sacred Blade for two reasons. One, to give you a ranged option. If you've ever used Black Knife in a build, you know that sometimes having a ranged option on Duchess can be great, simply because not every scenario can you just get in there and deal damage, and having some sort of range is great. Secondly, the buff from it is stronger than the buff that she gets with her Magic Dagger buffed on her starting weapon. And also, the end boss and the starting boss are both weak to holy damage. This is a good damage type against them, so if you're taking on the end boss, holy is definitely good. You can debuff that boss, making it less effective. And also, if you're taking on the event boss that's happening right now, that boss does not resist holy in any way. It doesn't deal extra holy damage compared to physical or anything like that, but at least it's not resisted like fire or lightning are. You could also make a variation of this build where you use Flaming Strike instead of using Sacred Blade if you want to put fire damage on your weapon, which can be good against bosses that are weak to fire, and there are a lot of field bosses that are weak to fire. I personally like Holy a little bit better, and obviously if you're taking on the end boss, you're going to want Holy, and if you're taking on the Gaping Jaw event boss, fires resist a little bit, so I don't recommend it in that case, but you could do a fire version if you like that skill better for specific bosses. Okay, so let's get into the relics. I don't have the perfect relics for this build, so I'll talk a bit about other relic buffs you might want to include if you have better relics. The first thing you obviously need is Sacred Blade on your starting armament. This is non-negotiable if you're trying to do this build with holy damage. You don't have to have this on, you can do any build that you want, but I like the extra damage that it brings, and again, if you're taking on the end boss, it's weak to that. So, Endurance +1 on here gives me 2 extra stamina, which is not a lot. I wish this was Endurance +3, but unfortunately, I literally do not have another relic that has Sacred Blade on it that has better buffs for Duchess. The next relic I'm using has stamina recovers with each successful attack. This is really, really strong on Duchess, stronger on Duchess than any character in the game, because you get stamina back, you get 2 stamina back with each hit, and this allows her to continue her onslaught without having to wait for her stamina to recover more often, so she can get through her long dagger chain and get to the end. If you have passive buffs that increase chain finishers, this will be good for you because you can get that extra damage on that last hit, which is nice. And, you know, if you have the relic that triggers her character skill when you get through a full dagger combo, that's also good to have this because this makes it more easy to do that. Additionally, I have HP back on dagger attacks. I think this is like 10 HP every 4 attacks of the dagger. It's hard to tell exactly how much you're getting because like critical hits seem to count for 10 also. So it's not a huge amount of HP. You could go with continuous HP recovery instead, and that would probably heal you up while you're running through destinations. But this one's really good when you're under pressure in the thick of a fight, so it lets you be aggressive, where the other one will just top off your health passively while you're running between objectives. But usually you tag a Site of Grace before you run to the next objective anyway, so I like this one a little bit better. Unfortunately, I don't have a third bonus on here that's good. The Wilder one obviously doesn't apply. If you had something else here, it would probably be like post-damage relic, where you can recover health for a limited time by attacking after taking damage, which will let you to be even more aggressive. Recovering that health you took, plus healing yourself simultaneously, can be strong. Or something like when you take damage, increases your attack power by 15%. Both of those would be good here as well. And then for my third relic, I'm running attack power permanently increases for each Everjail prisoner defeated. This is 5% per. You start also with a Stone Sword Key, which guarantees you can get at least 5%. And the treasure marked upon the map is okay. I don't really need it. But this is one of the new relics that is from the event. Highly recommend anyone playing right now run this relic, or a combination of the attack power permanently increased for each Everjail prisoner defeated and Stone Sword Key. I am fortunate enough to have another one of these with a different buff. It's got Chilling Mist on it, but I'm not going for a status effect build, so I'm not using that here. But that 5% is going to add up as you get through Everjails. If you get 4 or 5 of them, it's like 20-25%, which is really, really strong, which is going to increase every hit you do with your dagger. And again, if your whole team has this, then you're all going to have keys, you're all going to get benefits from doing Everjails, you'll prioritize them, and everyone wins in that case. So other relics you could add that I don't have here is the relic that allows her character skill to trigger at the end of her dagger chain. That would be really good for this. I find that sometimes it takes me a second to activate my character skill restage at the end of my combo, and sometimes I get hit in that because my reflexes are not fast enough. Having that is good. And also you can alternate. You can get through your dagger chain, it trigger, then do another combo and it trigger. If you don't get all the way through, you can trigger it manually and then kind of alternate, which is good. Note that if you use restage immediately after you trigger restage with this relic, it doesn't give you as much damage as you think it would. It doesn't like do 50% extra damage 2 times. It's more like a total of like 60 to 65% damage. So don't recommend triggering restage manually after restage triggers automatically. Also, damage with daggers would be good. Damage with daggers will increase your damage by 6% per one of those boosts, which is really strong. So again, the concept of this build is you lead off with Sacred Blade, and then you go to town playing aggressively, often out-healing damage that you might take. You're trying to, get through that full combo chain if you can, and if you have that character skill, you can trigger restage at the end of the combo chain, or if you have the relic, it'll trigger automatically, which is another reason to get all the way through it. So definitely want to do that, and sometimes, you might get hit getting that 7th hit, which is worth it in a lot of cases unless it one-shots you. You'll notice that I don't have any vigor buffs here or HP buffs. I'm not even really worried about my damage. I'm using my iframes to dodge as much as possible and just playing really aggressively and out healing damage the rest of the time against easy bosses. But Duchess is really strong against the event boss and the last boss of the game because her dodges have so much iframes that you can often just iframe through a lot of the AoEs that they do, where a lot of other characters have a hard time. Like if you're playing Guardian during the event boss, sometimes when those AoEs get dropped on the ground and he's blocking, even with Steel Guard up, he still takes a lot of damage through his shield, so it's very difficult for him, but Duchess can just iframe through it, making it a lot easier. In terms of dormant powers you want to look out for, successive attacks, restoring health is strong for this, getting more healing. FP on successive attacks is good if you have a weapon skill you like on one of the weapons, like if you do pick up Black Knife, that's really strong. Or maybe, you have like a staff in your offhand, you want to cast some spells now and then. That could be good in that case too. Note that I'm not dual wielding this build, I'm simply doing one-handed damage. I, for some reason, favor that moveset over dual wield. The more I play, I like it a little bit better, but you could dual wield if you want. Just keep in mind that Sacred Blade is only going to buff your right-hand weapon and won't buff your left hand. For passives, you really want to look for things that give you damage negation or end of chain attack finishers. End of chain attack finishers is quite strong if you can get through your whole combo. That will give you extra damage on that last hit. That's probably the best one for you in terms of damage, or one of them besides, like Flint Blades or something like that. Otherwise, you want to look for like damage negation on successive attacks or damage negation after taking damage. Things that are going to help you get through boss fights where like you're going to get hit and then you'll have better damage negation on the next hit, or even damage negation at full health. That's really strong to prevent you from getting one shot. Other passives you can take a look at are like health recovery on kill. That's good to get you through the levels, like on day 1 and day 2. Not so good in a boss fight, or continuous HP recovery isn't so bad. Probably not as strong as the health recovery on kills during the days, but it's better in a boss fight. The other thing about using this build is don't be afraid to pick up other good daggers and use them, like Black Knife. Black Knife is really strong. It almost outperforms this dagger in general. I think if you buff with Sacred Blade, you actually deal more damage if you upgrade your starting dagger to purple, which you should definitely do when using this build. It will actually outdamage the Black Knife, but the Black Knife has a really strong weapon skill because it takes a percentage of the boss's health away when you use it and does a little bit damage over time, which is really strong, and I think it has a little bit longer range than Sacred Blade does. So it's a really good dagger to use. If you pick that up, you're fortunate. If not, then Sacred Blade should carry you. Scorpion Stinger is another really good one to look out for because it can help you set Scarlet Rot, which is really good on the last boss. It's really good on any final boss, really, and it's also good against the event boss. So if you pick that up, definitely use that. You'll see both of these in my gameplay. And beyond that, if you want to pick up like a bleeding dagger or a bleeding weapon to use to get you through the days, that can be very good. It's not going to be good against the end of game boss, and it's not very good against the event boss because he has very high bleed resistances. So once you trigger bleed once on the event boss, it's going to be very, very difficult to trigger it a second time. So I don't recommend, using that at the end of, the last boss. But it can help carry you through easier bosses that can bleed very easily. So definitely consider slotting one of these if you see a good one. I even used like a pole blade here just because the bleeding on it is really strong. So that wraps up my Duchess build. That's kind of off meta. It's designed for the final boss. It works with the event boss. It can work with other bosses. And sometimes it's better to have a build like this when you have like an executor in your group that's, you know, triggering all these status effects anyway, so that you're not triggering them. Also, the holy damage can work really well with recluses. That can help them get buffs that they really like, so that can be really fantastic. And it's just a really fun build to play that can work well against any boss and really teaches you how to play Duchess, in my opinion. As always, if you have other feedback about this build, things that you should do differently, or just tips for people, you can leave them in the comments, or if you have questions about things that I'm doing, let me know and I'll try and answer them as soon as I can.